Hello, my name is Timo. My pronouns are he, him, his. I'm from Tucson, from the Southwest. I've been here since I was like in kindergarten. Right around here in this area, and the West Side is where we moved first. I'm originally from New Mexico. I was born in northern New Mexico. My roots are there. My grandparents are there. My deep ancestral roots are there. But Tucson's home, so I identify as Chicano, as indigenous. I'm a father of 5 kids. Yeah, that's what comes up for me in terms of who I am. When I was younger, my dad was very much into sports. He was a sports person, like watched sports, played sports. He had always had this idea for me of being someone that, like, he wanted his son to play sports and do all the things, right? And I did quite a few different things. T-ball to baseball to basketball to wrestling to track and field. I appreciated those experiences for many reasons, but it wasn't me. Literally was not me. And it did feel like being forced on me. This is what boys are supposed to do. Just these are the things you're supposed to be into. You know, it's what I saw. Like, and as with like my dad and his friends, and you know, they played basketball together and all those things. And I played too, and I played with my friends. Like, I had fun. That wasn't it. But at core, like, it wasn't who I was. So that was the first thing that was put onto me as like, this is what boys do. So I would name is like masculinity now. But it felt limiting. It didn't feel like it allowed me to really like delve into being who I truly was. I think that the idea of that like boys are supposed to play sports, like that was a specific example and the most like consistent and persistent example in my life. With that said, being that it wasn't really who I was, I'm actually not a very competitive person. You know, and that was also part of it, and I didn't like the competitive nature of sports. Being that was the expectation, and then there was a part of me too that like my dad wanted me to do this thing, so I wanted to impress him. I wanted to do a good job at it, right? And there were moments, I remember being young, where I didn't do the best job, you know, and he wasn't exactly nice about that always either, you know, and applied pressure to do better and that kind of thing. So that didn't feel good. And I would say that with that experience, like leading into middle school and even playing sports into high school, I developed camaraderie with friends. That was good, that were like on the team. Like, I would say generally, like, my teammates were cool with me. But being that I literally wasn't as good as a lot of the other people, like there was a lot of times where I felt inadequate, or like I would like just, it did not help with like my sense of self. It did not help with my like sense of, it just didn't help with my sense of self and self-esteem and all of those things, right? A thing that I'll speak to that hopefully doesn't feel like too big of a jump is like I'm really into hip hop. Within hip hop, right? Like it was the time growing up when literally people were on this East Coast, West Coast tip, and you're into East Coast hip hop, you're into West Coast hip hop. And then there was this, I think it actually wasn't true, this idea that East Coast hip hop is more conscious, and maybe to some degree it is, but what came with that is this idea that East Coast hip hop wasn't as derogatory towards women or as misogynistic. I think that there was part of me that attached to this idea, well, I'm not listening to the stuff that's like all about disrespecting women and all of this, like I'm into the more conscious stuff. And so there was this idea of all of this stuff is negative, I'm trying to do a thing that's positive, but then there was also this reality where I was denying the things that were like the growth that I needed to do for myself, and where I was denying just the truth of the reality of of what sexism is and minimizing and all of those things, and like seeing myself in like a better light than like people that were into this kind of thing or that kind of thing, and I like would distance myself in a way that I think wasn't authentic and wasn't true. And as I got older, eventually I ended up working in the domestic violence movement, and it's not until I literally heard the stories, just because I happened to work in the field, to be able to hear the stories that women and femme-identified folks shared of the violence that they endured and the level of the violence they endured. And hearing those stories, it's like story after story for hours, for years. You know, it didn't take years for it to click, but like that's what really like shifted me and made me realize, you know, that as bad as I thought this issue of men's violence and patriarchy is, I really had no idea. At the point where it clicked, and I was working at Emerge, like I could never turn back. I felt like there's no other option but to work towards a world that's safer for everyone. That's safer for women, safer for girls, safer for queer folks, safer for folks that experience the most violence.